Let's talk England. And I would like you to tell me now, we can do this little exercise together. We're going to say one name each. Let's see how far we get. About players who 100% must start if fit. Okay? I will begin.
Yep.
Harry Kane.
Yes, I would agree with that. Now, I'm going to go with a player that you're going to disagree with entirely. I'm going to go with Walker.
Kyle Walker.
Kyle Walker.
Okay. Now, the reason I'm going to disagree with it is that unless you see Kyle Walker as a center back, if Kyle Walker plays right back, that means Trent Alexander plays left bench. And I don't want that because I think Trent Alexander is really good. But now you're going to... already where we've gone with I thought we were going to go with the dead certainties we could both agree on.
I'm saying a dead certainty for me would be Walker because he's the player that so often gets the two centre-halves out of problem.
So you're dropping Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I don't... personally, I think he's a great crosser of the ball. He's a great passer of the ball. He cannot defend, and he has no defensive mindset whatsoever. And if I was a manager, I couldn't go into a game playing him at right back. I could play him as a right wing back.
Even though he doesn't play as a right wing back.
He doesn't play as he could play as a right wing back.
Right.
The formation as a right wing back would suit him perfectly. Right. Doesn't have to do too much defending, as long as Walker was in behind him as the right-sided centre half.
The problem you run into with that again is if you play him as a right wing back, then you either play 3-5-2 with no wingers, which doesn't seem very clever for England because they have a lot of options out wide. And they don't have necessarily two outstanding center forwards. Yeah. Or you have to play 3-4-3, and I don't know that fits the Gareth Southgate mindset. Play 3-4-3.
Why wouldn't it? Because if you got Harry Kane as
because
the
he's
centre
very
forward,
conservative. You're going to play a back three and then two defensive midfielders and then wing backs.
That's what you could do. He seems to like Phillips and Declan Rice as a combination in that midfield. You could have Trent Alexander as the right wing back. The left wing back's more of a problem.
Ben Chilwell
will be if he's fully fit. And then you play two players either side of or off Harry Kane.
Sterling, Sancho, whoever's fit.
Yeah, so those players, or Saka, whoever it may be, and they can play that role because they've played that role for Arsenal. They've played that role for Manchester City. Sterling's adjustable across the front line.
And then you play Walker with two centre backs.
Yes, and the centre backs. I'm not a great fan of Stones. I don't think he's good enough on the ball to make up for his defensive deficiencies. Harry Maguire, I've always been a fan of his. He's had a bad season, obviously lost confidence, but we saw him at the European Championships be outstanding. He's got to get back to that form, and if he can get that form back under Ten Hag, he'll be a definite pick.
Okay, are your goalkeeper still Pickford?
Yes, only because I'm not a Pickford. Pickford. I don't like goalkeepers that remonstrate every time somebody has a shot at them. That they look as though they're losing the plot slightly. He was at fault for the goal the other night. He makes mistakes, but he also makes good saves.
A better keeper?
Do you know what? I haven't seen enough of Pope to say, yeah, he's a great goalkeeper. He's consistent. No, I'd have to go with Pickford. He's the man in the role at the moment.
Yeah, I think Pope is very good. Maybe he's even a better keeper than Pickford. I do think because Pickford's been part of this system for so long. Yeah. Because Pickford's, I don't even know if he's, like, I assume he is better than Pope with his feet, but it does seem to be part of what Southgate wants. I don't think Southgate wants a goalkeeping controversy.
No.
Plus, Pope's going to be in the championship next year or this coming season. I mean, I would assume Southgate's going to say, all right, unless Pickford, has a nightmare, it's Pickford's job to lose, which is fine. And also, I think he's going to look at somebody like Aaron Ramsdale and perhaps judge him to be a little, not a little too green for it. Fine. I go back to what I said before. If the 3-4-3, if we believe that he's willing to play that setup in that way,
it's the best system to cover all aspects of the pitch because you've got a midfield four, you've got three. It's the players are spread evenly over the pitch, so it doesn't leave you short up front. It doesn't leave you short at the back. It doesn't leave you short in wide areas. It's the safest system in some ways. 3-4-3.
And you can do stuff with your wide players in the sense that you can have more traditional winger types. You can have Grealish coming inside. You can even if you had the right players, maybe even try to, if you want to make Kane even more comfortable,
Yeah.
try to replicate a little bit the way Spurs play.
Yeah.
You know, get somebody to impersonate Son and somebody to impersonate
Might be
Kulusevski.
difficult,
Not easy,
but not easy. But
you know
yeah,
what I
they
mean?
can.
Like,
Yeah.
I think it's
Well,
easier
remember
for-
at the European Championship, Sterling was the best he'd played for quite some while.
Yeah.
He was outstanding, making runs beyond Harry Kane.
Okay, so I'm feeling a little bit better about England. Can we also put Bellingham potentially as an alternative in that?
Yes.
In those two in midfield rotation.
But you were going to certainties. Declan Rice has to be a certainty.
All right, so let's recap on the certainties.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've sold me on Walker.
Yeah.
Since we're going 3-4-3.
Yeah.
So we have Kane, Walker, Declan Rice.
Yeah. And we've gone with Pickford as well, haven't we? I suppose.
Unless he falls apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've gone with Maguire.
Is that just because of a lack of alternatives?
I would say so, but I think Maguire, when he is full of confidence, and I think he'll have a good start to the season. I think his nightmare's probably behind him now. I think Gareth Southgate loves him as a player, loves him as a person. I think he'll do a good job next season.
I think the question with Maguire is, what is he like mentally? Not so much with England, but when he goes back to United. What if Eric Ten Hag says, "Yeah, sure, Eric Ten Hag."
I've watched the videos of last season. I didn't like the way you played. You're not.
No,
gonna
or
win
even
one-on-ones,
just starts in preseason and he says, "I like Varane and Lindelof," or "I like Varane and say they signed Timber or whatever." Right? I mean,
it could happen.
in absolute terms, if Varane
yeah.
is fit, we agree Varane is a better player than
Yes.
Maguire, right?
Yeah.
So that's one slot. If then United go and spend big money on a centre back, all of a sudden, I mean, Southgate might have the dilemma of, okay, he's not playing regularly. Do I still pick him? And then I think because we attach so much relevance to, the captaincy, I know there's been talk he's going to put it up to, but Maguire's a leader on this team.
Yeah.
And that's just going to create a whole bunch of other issues and more psychological baggage for Maguire to deal with after dealing with a ton of it last year. That would be my concern there. But looking at this, I think it's fair to say England are in better shape than Germany.
Yes, I would say so. And another player that doesn't matter how he's been playing for Manchester City, when the big games have come around for England, Sterling has always been picked by Southgate. And he did it at the European Championship. Because going into the European Championship, Sterling was totally out of form.
Yeah.
He was the player that everyone was saying he'd probably be left out the side. All these other players were going to come in. Sancho was going to come in. Saka was going to come in. And they did to a certain degree. But the player that played every game and played very well was Sterling.
Okay, so we were a bit vague on the two wingers, right? There's a lot of options. Sterling, Sancho, Grealish, Foden, who I think is perhaps the best of all.
Yeah.
Mount, who's not really a winger but would have to adapt inside. I mean, actually, let's word on Mount. Is he kind of the odd man out because you don't want him in the two in front of the back four, in front of the defense?
But if you're playing a 3, so 3-4-3, you can play without and out wide players up front, but you're not going to because the wing backs would, in particular if it was Trent Alexander-Arnold getting forward.
He's going to come inside.
He's going to come inside.
You could accommodate Mount there.
Absolutely. As he probably plays for Chelsea quite a lot of the time. On the
bit
right
narrower
bit
for
narrow.
Chelsea, I think.
Yeah,
But
so slightly narrow. And you could do the same with Sterling. But going back to your point about Bellingham, I think's a better all-round midfield player than probably Phillips. Phillips showed at the European Championship he can make forward runs as well. He's not just a passer, but he's been injured for a long time. Bellingham, when he came on, looked like a good athlete. He looked as though he could pass the ball. He won the ball back in good areas. So he's certainly another 6 months on a player that can really affect England.
Yeah, no, the more I look at it, I think England are in really good shape. I think what could undo them. And I know, again, I really struggle because I really like Southgate. I really like so many things he's brought. But I think at the Euros, he made bad decisions. And I know they got to the final, but I still think in every game, all those games were a lot closer than they should have been, largely owing to poor decisions that he made.
And not changing things when he needed to change things. There was a couple of games. The one against Scotland was obvious that whenever the ball went out to Reece James, he had to get driving on. He was standing right in front of the manager, and the manager just kept on allowing him to go back across the pitch. The one difference, in my view, and it might be controversial, the difference between Germany and England, Germany have a better coach.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.